Hi everyone, it's Phil again. I've got a story for you today that I think you might like. It's quite a quickish story, but it's quite funny, I think, and it involves a water skiing adventure that we had about 40 years ago, around about 1980, with some college friends, a group of 4 or 5 of us, at a wonderful place called Puerto Cabapino down on the Costa del Sol in Spain. Mum and Dad had bought a lovely apartment there, which looked out over the marina of Puerto Cabapino, and our story unfolds from there. What happened was that in one previous visit, Dad had decided, because there was a marina there, that he'd buy a little speedboat. So he went off to Marbella and he went to the local little boat showroom, and he found a boat that was not too expensive, pretty elderly but still seaworthy, and he bought it and had it taken to Cabapino. And during the winter and the off season, he would keep the boat on a trailer down in the car parking space underneath the apartment. So this particular year, we turned up, myself and 4 or 5 friends. We decided to teach ourselves to water ski. So we got hold of the boat and we manhandled it around from the car park down into the marina, and we got it slipped into the water. And eventually we got it going and we fueled it up, and Dad had bought an old pair of skis and a rope and a couple of life jackets. So with some water and suntan oil, we set off to teach ourselves to water ski. So we trundled out of the harbour just very gently. I think it's a 4 or 5 mile an hour speed limit. And once we're outside the harbour entrance out into the sea, I was driving and I opened up the throttle, steering like this, and all of a sudden, as we accelerated away, lots of noise, and there was a big shout from the people in the back of the boat, "Turn it off, turn it off." So I looked behind me, and there, incredibly, was the outboard motor thrashing around in the air, and only being held in place by the steering wires that go to the outboard motor. So I immediately chopped the throttle, turned the ignition off, and the engine fell back into the water and was just left dangling in the water with the wires holding it. And as it fell, the cover had come off the top of the engine, fallen into the water, filled up with water, and sunk to the seabed. So the engine wouldn't work, and thankfully there was a yacht coming back into the harbour who saw our predicament and towed us back into the harbour. So we felt a bit stupid, and we trundled back into the harbour and got the local repair agency people to have a look at our problem, and they helped us sort the thing out. And we fished out the spark plugs and cleaned the whole thing off, and got the engine going again. But of course we didn't have the engine cover. And we wondered what had happened. Why had the engine done this? And what we realized is that we think that during the winter, some crooks had perhaps tried to steal the engine off the back of the boat when it was in the car park. And they had tried loosening the screw buckles that are on the back of the boat, on the transom of the boat, where the engine locks itself onto the transom, and we hadn't properly checked that they were really well done up. And so as soon as the engine had any power on it, it jumped into the air and started thrashing around. So anyway, we made sure the engine was properly done up, and even without the engine cover, we trundled back out of the harbour and decided to look for the engine cover. And the way we did it was to have one of us in turn lying face down in the water with a life jacket on, lying like this, prone in the water, with our hands holding the handle of the tow rope, with a face mask on, being slowly towed around the harbour entrance area, looking to see down to the bottom of the seabed to see if we could see the engine cover. And we took it in turns, and we did this for an hour or so, and we were getting very fed up, and it was obviously becoming a bit of a wild goose chase. And then Alex, my very good friend Alex, who you perhaps met before in an earlier video, he was on the rope, and all of a sudden he let go of the rope and he dived down into the water, and he went down about 20 feet or so, and he came up like Excalibur holding this engine cover in his hand, and he had found it, which was amazing. And so we fished him and the engine cover back into the boat, and we trundled back into the harbour and got him sorted out and put the engine cover back on, and we were all set to try again. So off we went, back out the harbour, gingerly opening up the engine, and sure enough it was running well, and we could scoot about in our speedboat. So we decided to try and learn to ski. The problem was that this elderly boat had a very elderly and small little Evinrude outboard motor of supposedly 40 horsepower. And that is really the minimum that you can use to water ski. And because this particular engine was pretty tired, it could only just manage to pull us out of the water. And I've got some photos, I can't find them at the moment, but this photo here, which I just picked off the internet, gives you some idea of what it was like trying to come out of the water. With so little power to pull you out, because what it means is that while you're being pulled along, before you come out on top of the water, there's a lot of drag and there's a lot of water going everywhere. And we remember my brother Chris, who is 6'2" and at the time quite big and heavy, really struggling to get out of the water. And I think he eventually managed it for a few yards before he sort of slunk back in. But anyway, we persevered and we made this thing work, and we taught ourselves to ski on 2 skis, which was fun. And we took it in turns and we all learnt how to do it. And then we thought we'd try and be clever. So we thought, okay, let's see if we can ski on 1 ski. So we had a go, and the way that we found to do it was unusual, because if you tried to come out of the water on 1 ski, the engine just didn't have the power to pull us out on 1 ski. I think 2 skis makes it easier to come out. So we tried that a few times and just ended up getting very tired and getting nowhere. So we decided to come out on 2 skis and to ski along on the 2 skis, and then slowly transfer the weight onto 1 ski, and then kick the other ski away with the foot that's by then in the air, and transfer the back foot into the back binding of the other ski, and then you're skiing along on 1 ski. Fun. And we managed to do that, and we learned how to do it, which was great. And there was just enough power to be able to do that and to ski on 1 ski. So the next problem was that every time we got up onto one ski and got the hang of it and started to go quite a long way on one ski, when we'd finished skiing on one ski, we had a problem there, because where was the other ski that we kicked off? It might be half a mile behind us. And often we would go and try and find it and spend ages driving around looking for a ski. So we then had another brainwave, and we putted back into the port, and with a lead weight on the tail of the ski and a Tupperware box screwed onto the middle of the ski, we could then go out and ski again, and this time come up on two skis, go along, come back onto one ski and leave one in the water, and the one that was left in the water would then rotate upwards with the Tupperware box in the middle and the lead weight at the bottom, so the ski would be sticking up by about a foot out of the water, which made it much easier to go and retrieve the ski. And that's what we did. So we all did some mono skiing, which was great. Until we found one day we couldn't find it. And we looked around and just potted around the local area, just couldn't find this second ski. And then we noticed in the distance a fishing boat that had gone past our area a few minutes earlier, and came to the conclusion they must have picked up our ski. So we were not long out of college, and we were students, we didn't have much money, and we certainly couldn't afford to buy another ski. So that meant, what do we do now? Because we wanted to keep skiing, but we knew that we couldn't pull ourselves out of the water on one ski. So this is where the story gets very silly. What we did was we needed to find a beach where it shelved steeply enough so that the speedboat could come in close to the beach and turn round and then accelerate away from the beach, and with the skier standing on the beach, as the boat accelerated away and the tension came into the tow rope, the skier could effectively jump off the beach into the water and be skiing. And that's what we learnt to do. It took some time and it was pretty tricky, but we taught ourselves to beach start. But the problem there was, where did we find a beach that was steep enough that we could get the boat in close, where there was still some slack in the tow rope? So we trundled along the coast a little bit and found a beautiful beach. And it is a gorgeous beach, just between Cabapino in the direction of Marbella. And so we started to learn to monoski off the beach from there. And after the first one or two goes of doing it, people came up to us to see what we were doing. And it was a bit of a shock, because what we hadn't realized is that it was the local nudist beach. And all these nudist people came up to us and were trying to find out what we were up to. And it was all quite fun and quite embarrassing, really. And they were warning us to be very careful where we got the tow rope caught, because they felt that we ought to be, if we were on their beach, we should be doing it in their style and their way. So that could have been exciting. So anyhow, that's our little water skiing story. And it was a lot of fun and very happy days. I was very lucky to go with friends out there and do that. But there's a couple of little coders to that story. One is that from that nudist beach, just inland a few 50, 100 meters or so, was a little airstrip where there was a guy giving trial flights in a little twin-engined microlight, which was an amazing machine. And from there you could fly up into the mountains to a place called La Concha, which is an iconic sort of hill stroke mountain that looks down over Marbella. And I remember very fondly a fantastic flight up to that place and back down to the beach at Cabapino. And that's what really kick-started my interest in microlighting, which then led into the whole of my life enjoying flying little aeroplanes. But the end of the story is that this all happened 40 years ago. And a couple of years ago, some very good friends of mine, Paul and Irene, after university days and just after those days when we were in Cabapino, they moved to California, and Paul became an entrepreneur in software and the computer world, and has done very well, and Paul and Irene have a great life over in America. But a couple of years ago, after many years of not having seen each other, Paul and Irene invited us to go and join them on their beautiful boat on a holiday in the Bahamas and Greater Abaco. And that's what we did. And there's some photos here that you can see. And on the back of Paul and Irene's beautiful boat was a speedboat, slightly smaller, but about the same size as the one in Cabapino. And he had some skis. So we relived our youth of 40 years ago. And so last year, at aged 62, I was water skiing again, and so were the others. And we all had a whale of a time to see if we could still remember the skills that we learnt all those years ago. And so there's a couple of video clips here and a couple of still photos that you might like. And you'll see how we got on. And we even tried to go monoskiing, and you can see the results. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed this story, and look out for the next videos to come in the next day or two. So my name's Phil. This is Phil's Fun for Fogies. Please write to me, send me messages, show me your juggling or your paper planes or anything to do with the previous videos. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. And stay healthy, take care, bye bye.